Continuing to read Wonder by RJ Palacio for Mrs. Burke, Miss Garino, Mrs. Hazel, and Mrs. Roman's class. Starting on page 214, Hearing Brightly. How can I describe what I heard when the doctor turned on my hearing aids, or what I didn't hear? It's too hard to think of words. The ocean just wasn't living inside my head anymore. It was gone. I could hear sounds like shiny lights in my brain. It was like when you're in a room where one of the light bulbs on the ceiling isn't working, but you don't realize how dark it is until someone changes the light bulb, and then you're like, whoa, it's so bright in here. I don't know if there's a word that means the same as bright in terms of hearing, but I wish I knew one, because my ears are hearing brightly now. How does it sound, Augie? Said the ear doctor. Can you hear me okay, buddy? I looked at him and smiled, but I didn't answer. Sweetie, do you hear anything different? Said Mom. You don't have to shout, Mom. I nodded happily. Are you hearing better? Asked the ear doctor. I don't hear that noise anymore, I answered. It's so quiet in my ears. The white noise is gone, he said, nodding. He looked at me and winked. I told you you'd like what you heard, August. He made more adjustments on the left hearing aid. Does it sound very different, love? Mom asked. Yeah, I nodded. It sounds lighter. That's because you have bionic hearing now, buddy, said the ear doctor, adjusting the right side. Now touch here. He put my hand behind the hearing aid. Do you feel that? That's the volume. You have to find the volume that works the best for you. We're going to do that next. Well, what do you think? He picked up a small mirror and had me look in the big mirror at how the hearing aids looked in the back. My hair covered most of the headband. The only part that was peeking out was the tubing. Are you okay with your new bionic Lobot hearing aids? The ear doctor asked, looking in the mirror at me. Yeah, I said, thank you. Thanks so much, Dr. James, said Mom. The first day I showed up at school with the hearing aids, I thought the kids would make a big deal about it, but no one did. Summer was glad I could hear better, and Jack said it made me look like an FBI agent or something. But that was it. Mr. Brown asked about it in English class, but it was like, what the heck is that thing on your head? It was more like, if you ever need me to repeat something, Augie, make sure you tell me, okay? Now that I look back, I don't know why I was so stressed about it all the time. Funny how sometimes you worry a lot about something and it turns out to be nothing. Via's secret. A couple of days after spring break ended, Mom found out that Via hadn't told her about a school play that was happening at her high school the next week. And Mom was mad. Mom really doesn't get mad that much. The dad would disagree with that. But she was really mad at Via for that. She and Via got into a huge fight. I could hear them yelling at each other in Via's room. My bionic Lobot ears could hear Mom saying, but what is it with you lately, Via? You're moody and taciturn and secretive. What is so wrong with my not telling you about a stupid play? Via practically screamed. I don't even have a speaking part in it. Your boyfriend does. Don't you want us to see him in it? No, I actually don't. Stop screaming. You screamed first. Just leave me alone, okay? You've been really good about leaving me alone my whole life. So why choose high school to suddenly be interested? I have no idea. Then I don't know what Mom answered because it got all very quiet. And even my bionic Lobot ears couldn't pick up a sound. My cave. By dinner, they seemed to have made up. Dad was working late. Daisy was sleeping. She'd thrown up a lot earlier in the day, and Mom made an appointment to take her to the vet the very next morning. The three of us were sitting down, and no one was talking. Finally, I said, so are we going to go see Justin in a play? Via didn't answer, but looked down at her plate. You know, Augie, said Mom quietly, I hadn't realized what play it was. It really isn't something that would be interesting to kids your age. So I'm not invited? I said, looking at Via. I didn't say that, said Mom. I just don't think it's something you'd enjoy. You'd get totally bored, said Via, like she was accusing me of something. Are you and Dad going? I asked. Dad'll go, said Mom. I'll stay home with you. What? Via yelled at Mom. Oh, great. So you're going to punish me for being honest by not going? You didn't want us to go in the first place, remember? Answered Mom. But now that you know about it, of course I want you to go, said Via. Well, I've got to weigh everybody's feelings here, Via, said Mom. What are you two talking about? I shouted. Nothing. They both snapped at the same time. Just something about Via's school that has nothing to do with you, said Mom. You're lying, I said. Excuse me, said Mom. kind of shocked. Even Via looked surprised. I said, "You're lying," I shouted. "You're lying." I shouted at Via, getting up. "You're both liars. You're both lying to my face like I'm an idiot." "Sit down, Augie," said Mom, grabbing my arm. I pulled my arm away and pointed at Via. "You think I don't know what's going on?" I yelled. "You just don't want your brand new, fancy high school friends to know your brother's a freak." "Augie," Mom yelled, "that's not true." "Stop lying to me, Mom," I shrieked. "Stop treating me like a baby. I'm not retarded. I know what's going on." I ran down the hallway to my room and slammed the door behind me so hard that I had actually heard little pieces of the wall crumble inside the door frame. Then I plopped on my bed and pulled the covers up on top of me. I threw my pillows over my disgusting face, and then I piled all of my stuffed animals on top of the pillows like I was inside a little cave. If I could walk around with a pillow over my face all the time, I would. I don't even know how I got so mad. I wasn't really mad at the beginning of dinner. I wasn't even sad. But then, all of a sudden, it all kind of just exploded out of me. I knew Via didn't want me to go to her stupid play, and I knew why. I figured Mom would follow me into my room right away, but she didn't. I wanted her to find me inside my cave of stuffed animals, but I waited a little more. But even after 10 minutes, she still didn't come in after me. I was pretty surprised. She always checks on me when I'm in my room, upset about stuff. I pictured Mom and Via talking about me in the kitchen. I figured Via was feeling really bad. I pictured Mom totally laying on the guilt, and Dad would be mad at her when he got home. I made a little hole through the pile of pillows and stuffed animals and peeked at the clock on my wall. Half an hour had passed, and Mom still hadn't come into my room. I tried to listen for sounds in the other rooms. Were they still having dinner? What was going on? Finally, the door opened. It was Via. She didn't even bother coming over to my bed, and she didn't come in softly like I thought she would. She came in quickly. "Goodbye." "Augie," said Via, "come quick. Mom needs to talk to you." "I'm not apologizing." "This isn't about you," she yelled. "Not everything in the world is about you, Augie. Now hurry up. Daisy's sick. Mom's taking her to the emergency vet. Come say goodbye." I pushed the pillows off my face and looked up at her. That's when I realized she was crying. "What do you mean goodbye?" "Come on," she said, holding out her hand. I took her hand and followed her down the hall to the kitchen. Daisy was lying sideways on the floor with her legs straight out in front of her. She was panting a lot, like she'd been running in the park. Mom was kneeling beside her, stroking the top of her head. "What happened?" I asked. "She just started whimpering all of a sudden," said Via, kneeling down next to Mom. I looked down at Mom, who was crying too. "I'm taking her to the animal hospital downtown," she said. "The taxi's coming to pick me up." "The vet'll make her better, right?" I said. Mom looked at me. "I hope so, honey," she said quietly, "but honestly, I don't know." "Of course he will," I said. "Daisy's been sick a lot lately, Augie, and she's old." "But they can fix her," I said, looking at Via to agree with me, but Via wouldn't look up at me. Mom's lips were trembling. "I think it might be time for us to say goodbye to Daisy, Augie. I'm sorry." "No," I said. "We don't want her to suffer, Augie," she said. The phone rang. Via picked it up and said, "Okay, thanks," and then hung up. "The taxi's outside," she said, wiping her tears on the back of her hands. "Okay, Augie, open the door for me, sweetie," said Mom, picking Daisy up very gently like she was a huge, droopy baby. "Please, no, Ma," I cried, putting myself in front of the door. "Honey, please," said Mom. "She's very heavy." "What about Daddy?" I cried. "He's meeting me at the hospital," Mom said. "He doesn't want Daisy to suffer, Augie." Via moved me away from the door and held it open for Mom. "My cell phone's on if you need anything," Mom said to Via. "Can you cover her with the blanket?" Via nodded, but she was crying hysterically now. "Say goodbye to Daisy, kids," Mom said, tears streaming down her face. "I love you, Daisy," Via said, kissing Daisy on the nose. "I love you so much." "Bye, little girlie," I whispered into Daisy's ear. "I love you." Mom carried Daisy down the stoop. The taxi driver had opened the back door, and we watched her get in. Just before she closed the door, Mom looked up at us standing by the entrance to the building and gave us a little wave. I don't think I've ever seen her look any sadder. "I love you, Mommy," said Via. "I love you, Mommy," I said. "I'm sorry, Mommy." Mom blew a kiss to us and closed the door. We watched the car leave, and then Via closed the door. She looked at me a second, and then she hugged me very, very tight while we both cried a million tears. Daisy's toys. Justin came over about a half hour later. He gave me a big hug and said, "Sorry, Augie." We sat down in the living room, not saying anything. For some reason, Via and I had taken all of Daisy's toys from around the house and had put them in a little pile on the coffee table. Now we just stared at the pile. "She really is the greatest dog in the world," said Via. "I know," said Justin, rubbing Via's back. "She just started whimpering, like all of a sudden," I said. Via nodded. "Like 2 seconds after you left the table," she said. "Mom was going to go after you, but Daisy started, like, whimpering." "Like how?" "Just whimpering." "I don't know," said Via. "Like howling?" I asked. "Augie, like whimpering," she answered impatiently. "She just started moaning, like something was really hurting her, and she was panting like crazy. Then she just kind of plopped down, and Mom went over and tried to pick her up, and whatever she was obviously hurting, she bit Mom." "What?" I said. "When Mom tried to touch her stomach, Daisy bit her hand," Via explained. "Daisy never bites anybody," I answered. "She wasn't herself," said Justin. "She was obviously in pain." "Daddy was right," said Via. "We shouldn't have let her get this bad." "What do you mean?" I said. "He knew she was sick?" "Augie, Mom's taken her to the vet like 3 times in the last 2 months. She's been throwing up left and right. Haven't you noticed?" "But I didn't know she was sick." Via didn't say anything, but she put her arm around my shoulders and pulled me closer to her. I started to cry again. "I'm sorry, Augie," she said softly. "I'm really sorry about everything, okay? You forgive me. You know how much I love you, right?" I nodded. Somehow that fight didn't matter much now. "Was Mommy bleeding?" I asked. "It was just a nip," said Via, "right there." She pointed to the bottom of her thumb to show me exactly where Daisy had bitten Mom. "Did it hurt her?" "Mommy's okay, Augie. She's fine." Mom and Dad came home 2 hours later. We knew the second they opened the door that Daisy wasn't with them, that Daisy was gone. We all sat down in the living room around the pile of Daisy's toys. Dad told us what happened at the animal hospital, how the vet took Daisy for some x-rays and blood tests, then came back and told them she had a huge mass in her stomach. She was having trouble breathing. Mom and Dad didn't want her to suffer, so Daddy picked her up in his arms, like he always liked to do, with her legs straight up in the air, and he and Mom kissed her goodbye over and over again and whispered to her while the vet put the needle into her leg. And then after about a minute, she died in Daddy's arms. "It was so peaceful," Daddy said. "She wasn't in any pain at all, like she was just going to sleep." A couple of times while he talked, Dad's voice got trembly and he cleared his throat. I've never seen Dad cry before, but I saw him cry tonight. I had gone into Mom and Dad's bedroom looking for Mom to put me to bed, but saw Dad sitting on the edge of the bed taking off his socks. His back was to the door, so he didn't know I was there. At first I thought he was laughing because his shoulders were shaking, but then he put his palms on his eyes and I realized he was crying. It was the quietest crying I had ever heard, like a whisper. I was going to go over to him, but then I thought maybe he was whisper crying because he didn't want me or anyone else to hear him. So I walked out and went to Via's room, and I saw Mom lying next to Via on the bed, and Mom was whispering to Via, who was crying. So I went to my bed and put on my pajamas without anyone telling me to, and put the nightlight on and turned the light off and crawled into the little mountain of stuffed animals I had left on my bed earlier. It felt like that all had happened a million years ago. I took my hearing aids off and put them on the night table and pulled the covers up to my ears and imagined Daisy snuggling with me, her big wet tongue licking my face all over like it was her favorite face in the world. And that's how I fell asleep. We will continue reading Wonder by RJ Palacio.